rises up.
Tony Turner no longer coaching this team like a good team. He's coaching this team like he thinks they can be a team that challenges for one of the best in the nation.
Featuring Raven coaches Jay Herkelman and Tony Turner, brought to you by the David W. Barnes Funeral Home. Now live from GG's Burger Bar on 9th Street in downtown Coffeyville, here's host Shay Neal.
Good evening and welcome to GG's Burger Bar here on 9th Street in downtown Coffeyville. I'm Shay Neal. So happy you're with us here for the Red Raven Coaches Show, and we're excited to be back, of course, after the Thanksgiving holiday. Plenty to talk about here in the next 59 minutes, and we got great stuff. And we're going to switch it up. We made the executive decision, and by me, I mean our guests every week made the executive decision. I think it's a great idea that we're going to alternate who goes first every week, keep the content fresh, and keep everyone excited with both programs. So Coach Herkelman leading off tonight, batting first. And first of all, Coach, before we start talking basketball, did you have a good Thanksgiving break?
Yeah, I mean, I was here with the guys. You know, some of the guys were able to go home. Some guys who lived within driving distance. We took Thursday off, and some of the guys were able to go home Wednesday after practice. And some of the other guys, Tyro Christian Church was good enough to feed the students that were on campus, so we took some guys that were out there, and they had a good meal. So, yeah, I mean, for me, Thanksgiving is all about basketball stuff anyway. So it's been that way all my life, from the time I was playing to, you know, through my coaching career. So I know a lot of people get excited about it, and I just, you know, I'm excited about it, but for me, it's still about basketball.
I'm glad the coach, like you said, the community and the college does, you know, a special kind of occasion, a special event for the players that can't make it home for the holidays.
It was really nice of the Tyro Christian Church to do that. You know, I think they were expecting a little bit bigger numbers than what actually showed up, but kids' plans at that time of year always are fluctuating, you know, and some kids went home with friends that they weren't planning on and stuff, but it was good for the kids that were here to be able to go get a meal, and a lot of those guys, it was the first time away from home on Thanksgiving.
Well, Coach, a lot has happened since we last spoke here on the Red Raven Coaches Show, and before we get into a big thank you to our sponsor, the David W. Barnes Funeral Home, for allowing us to put this on here, and of course a big thank you to GG's as well for providing us with some great food and a place to set up every single Thursday night here for this program. But Coach, we've seen some highs and lows from this team this year, and currently on a little bit of a skid here, losing 3 in a row. But I think if you look at the game from last night against Butler, something I told Coach Odom, at the end of the day, I know that you and your staff are, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. It was a loss. But yeah. I definitely think it was a step in the right direction compared to what we saw against Cloud and against Cali, because your group did compete with one of the best teams in this league for 40 minutes, and I think that was something that we hadn't been seeing in the week prior.
No, that's right. I mean, you know, our big thing yesterday was to just get off to a better start. You know, in those 2 games you referred to, Cloud and Cowley, we were bad offensively early and got ourselves in a hole and just couldn't get out of it. And when you're playing good people and get down like we were getting down, it's so hard to come back. So that was our focus for a couple days, and we switched things up a little bit. And I really liked our plan that we had, moving Chris to the 4. You know, we only had 2 days of practice doing it, and he's going to get more comfortable with it. But I liked the way we started. I mean, the first, 15 minutes of the game, 13 minutes of the game really was really good. And then we went back to, you know, we were missing some shots. And the thing I talked to the guys about today was just, you know, you got to extend the good play. You know, that's what this team has to learn to do. And the reason we got off to such a good start was we were taking good shots, we were running the offense, we were doing what we wanted. And it was almost like they got comfortable, and then we started taking some bad shots, and then they weren't falling, and Butler came back on us. And but I liked our start. We just, you know, we got to be able to transfer stuff that we're doing in practice, because I see these guys and the way we shoot it in practice, and transfer it obviously to a game, and we're not able to do that right now.
And Coach, you did, of course, with BK unavailable, we'll get a couple guys on your team that are banged up in a little bit. But with BK unavailable, you brought out a new starting five with, of course, Janai, Chris at the 4, like you said, CJ Smith. One of the few times this year, at least that I can recall, where Janai and CJ were on the floor together for an extended period of time. Right. And I think, obviously, BK brings you a lot of length himself, but I think having Janai, CJ, and Isaac on the floor all at the same time with Chris, it really was an intriguing lineup, and like you said, I think it worked well for you to start off that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's even though we don't have a 7-footer in there or a 6'9" guy like BK is, other than Javen, everybody in that group is 6'6" or 6'7", and athletes, and so Butler has a similar type of lineup, maybe a little bit more in size, but not a lot in the overall size. So I was comfortable with it. Isaac is really tough, and he can guard guys, at the 5 position, just like he does at the 4. So, that lineup is one I'm planning on, if Isaac can go on Saturday, I'm planning on sticking with, because, like I said, I did like the way we start. I liked our mentality. I liked our aggressiveness, but we just got to be able to, when we get into the second half, be able to extend our good play.
And, Coach, I think the aggressiveness from the start of that game, a big, almost the catalyst of it was Javen Kofer, which we've talked about Javen before and how he brings a level of quickness and energy and intensity that you're obviously a big fan of, and he gets a lot of minutes in your rotation. But I think what we saw from Javen at the start of that Butler game was he was more aggressive shooting the basketball, knocked down a couple of threes, had an attack inside, finished at the rim. Yeah. I think if we get that, I think that's the evolution for Javen Kofer. We know what he brings from an athletic standpoint, from a passing standpoint. We've seen that through the first 9 games. But if he can bring you that 10, 12, 13 points per game and be just a little bit more aggressive shooting the basketball, I think he can be one of the best point guards in this league.
Well, he's very aggressive. He's got that mentality. He's had it from the day we recruited him. That's why we liked him. The thing that I had to talk to him about earlier in the season, because it's still early, but earlier, is being able to play fast, stay aggressive, but have a calm mind. Because he would want to go fast, and then he'd want to make plays right away, and sometimes it got him in trouble. And he's starting to learn that push the ball, keep the pace going, but then be able to evaluate the situation and then make good decisions. Last night he got off to a good start shooting the ball because our ball movement was good early. We wanted to have an inside attack, throwing it into Isaac and Chris, and then tell our guards, about movement and spacing, and then play inside out. And he got a couple of those threes just because we passed it inside, and then it came back outside. He was ready, and he knocked them down. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to continue to get better. He's a great leader for us. He's, as a freshman, the kind of leadership that we get for him is kind of unusual because he has taken on a lot of those leadership responsibilities. But, yeah, he's a tough kid. He's going to play a lot of minutes for us, and I just see him getting better and better.
And I see, I'm glad you mentioned the leadership from Javen Kofer, because I think that's something that I've seen from a lot of your young guys, and maybe not necessarily all vocal leaders of this group, or your traditional kind of, quote, captain of the team kind of role, but just a lot of leading by example, guys that are hungry when something doesn't go their way, guys that are always leading by example, putting their heads down, scrapping their way to improve every single day. And I know that's something that, dating back to the conversations we had in the summer, you said was a quality and a trait of this group, that they don't take losing very well, in the sense that they're always wanting to learn from it as quick as they can. And I think you have a group of a bunch of hungry young guys that are, you can tell it clearly makes them upset when they fail out there on the court. And I think over the time, that's only going to help you when we get to February, March of this season, where these guys are going to, the phrase I keep using is, eventually these guys are going to have a switch flip. And I think when that switch flips, it changes for everyone in the conference, because I think once that switch flips, you've mentioned the talent. And I think it takes, we talk about going up a level. I think it goes up multiple levels.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac's been our very vocal leader from the beginning, and he can do that because he's got the most experience with us, with me, but also because he plays so hard. And so the guys want to follow that. He's a leader. He says the right things in the locker room. And now Javen is getting more comfortable, and they see what he's been doing with his team and how hard he plays, so he can take on those responsibilities. And so we got two good ones there. And then, Chris is kind of a quiet, more reserved guy, but he leads by how hard he plays. And the other guys are receptive to it. I mean, that's the other thing is a lot of times when guys want to be leaders on the team, maybe some of the guys don't want to follow it. And these guys are doing that. And, I told him today, it's a real good characteristic that I'm seeing that I think is going to pay its dividends later on and hopefully soon, but carry us through the season is right now we are, everybody knows that we're struggling offensively. I mean, we are last in the conference in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and points per game. But we're one of the best defensive teams. I mean, we are, the number one defensive rebounding team. That's an emphasis for us every game, rebounding the ball. We're third in the conference in overall rebounds. That's offense and defensive rebounds. We're fourth in the conference in defense, just scoring. And so the thing that I told him was, even though we're struggling on that, and most teams, if you're struggling offensively, you're not going to want to guard as hard defensively. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. That's one thing this team has been consistently doing. The only game where I could say, hey, we didn't guard like we need to was over at Cowley. And, that night they got on a roll, and they proved how good they are. They went and beat Barton at Barton last night. They're a good team. But this team is continually guarding and keeping us in the game when we're struggling. And eventually, when we're going to make shots, and I truly believe we're going to, I see these guys, like I say, every day I see how hard they work. They get in the gym extra. And eventually it's going to pay off. And when it does, and the thing I talked to them about also was, our teams in the past have averaged in the 80s, and right now we're averaging 60. I said, we don't have to be the leading scorer in the conference, but if we can be middle of the pack the way we're guarding, we're going to win an awful lot of games. And so that's what we got to strive to get to right now.
Oh, and I'm glad you said that, because that's something that I almost said with, as I'm sure people can hear on the radio. It's somebody's birthday here tonight.
Yeah, I need some cake here. Bring the cake over here.
But something I said with Coach Turner, it was very similar. It was score 70, give up 60. That's the mentality that you can have as a team that plays good defense. You don't need to put up 80, 85 points like you said. Score 70, give up 60. And I think that could very well be this team's identity, like you said. I think you're absolutely right in the sense that it feels like this defense has stayed as tight-knit as a group throughout this stretch of the season. And I think that it's something that I feel like I'm saying every week at this point, but even more so than last year. I felt like last year there were good players in this league last year, but I felt like you could pinpoint it down to a top 6, 7, 8 teams in this conference that had the stars, that had the really good players. This year it feels like almost every single matchup that you have with a team from anywhere from first in the conference down to 13th in the conference has a player that we're talking about averages 18 points a game, or a player that was sought after in the transfer portal, or a player that 5 schools in the conference wanted. So it just feels like the depth of the league is so impressive, and having guys like Isaac and Chris Carroll and guys that can defend, and a team that buys into that, like you said, is only gonna pay off in the long run, because this team's too talented to average 60 over the course of a season.
Yeah, I think so. And the other thing that we have to keep in perspective is our losses are to every loss we had is to a nationally ranked team, and not that sits well with me because we're used to beating those teams and winning those games, but NEO was preseason ranked. They're back in the rankings. Cloud is nationally ranked. Cowley moved into the rankings. Butler's ranked number 9 in the nation. And so we're playing quality people. And that's just the way our schedule started this year. I mean, it's just the way it drew out. We're going to get into a part of it where, these teams that we play the next couple games aren't ranked teams, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of drop-off. I mean, Northwest Tech played at Cowley for the first game and played them way better than what we did over there. Lost a close game. Northwest Tech was leading Butler by 12 with 7 minutes to go out of third place last week, and Butler won the game by 2 points. So even though we're going to go play a team that isn't nationally ranked, just like what you were saying, 1 through 13, everybody's good. In this league, everybody's good. And when you go on the road and you have to travel 7 hours like we're going to have to do Saturday, we're going to have to really be on our game.
It's our Red Raven Coaches Show presented by David W. Barnes Funeral Home. Big thanks to Gigi's for having us. Let's step away for 2 minutes, our first break of the show. We're going to see if we can go get a piece of cake. It's somebody's birthday.
Yeah.
But, we'll be back in 2 minutes, more with Coach Herkelman as the Ravens get ready for a trip to Goodland coming up on Saturday. We're back in 2 on the Mighty 690 KGGF.
When it comes to a time of loss, most folks around here trust and rely on David W. Barnes Funeral Home. It could be because of their compassionate care. It could be because of their superior service. Or maybe because of their fair, honest prices. Or just maybe for all those reasons. More people trust the David W. Barnes Funeral Home during a time of loss. The David W. Barnes Funeral Home, 306 North Klein in Coffeyville, an independent, family-owned business.
Watson in motion. They're going to throw a crossing pattern. Caught right, 30. Angling 25 up the sideline. 15. Inside the 5. Touchdown! Kansas City!
The road trip continues this Sunday when the Chiefs travel to legendary Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. Pre-game starts at 6 on your home for Kansas City Chiefs football.
The Mighty 690 KGGF. Chiefs football is brought to you on KGGF by Roman Chevrolet, Rack House Billiards, Sawyer's Fine Wines and Spirits, Millie's Fine Furnishings, Merle Norman, Brewski's, Great Plains Federal Credit Union, Gemini Funding, Skyway Honda, Sports Zone Liquor, T.H. Rogers Lumber Company, Levette Health, Anderson Plumbing LLC. Kansas State Wildcat Basketball is brought to you on KGGF by Community State Bank, Corner Post Insurance, Altamont Builder Supply, Coffeyville Community College, Roman Chevrolet, and Farm Bureau Financial Services Agent Justin Stidham. Your home for Wildcat basketball in the 4 states is the Mighty 690 KGGF.
Red Raven Coaches Show here on the Mighty 690. I'm Shay Neal, and so happy you're with us. Big thanks to Gigi's Burger Bar for having us, of course, and big thanks to the David W. Barnes Funeral Home for sponsoring this program as well. We're continuing our chat with Coach Jay Herkelman. And Coach, before we really start talking about this matchup with the Mavericks coming up on Saturday, something that I've noticed, and I'm your staff have noticed it as well, but the zone defense has been something that your team has struggled with over the last couple of weeks. And I know that NEO used it quite a bit. I know that NEO was primarily a zone defensive team. I know Cali did a little bit of zone, as well as Butler switched to a zone in the second half. I know every team plays a little bit different looks when it comes to a zone defense, but what have you seen from your group against the zone defense that's not working right now?
Making baskets. I mean, it's just, and Cloud does. Cloud plays a switching matchup man-to-man. Coach Fisher and I were talking about it before the game last night because he had played Northwest Tech and played Seward, our next two opponents, and they both played these matchup-type zones, and he referred to it as there's a lot of teams in this conference that play a lot of gimmick defenses. And I don't know if they're gimmick, but they're not just the straight man-to-man stuff that you see a lot, when you're watching TV, college basketball. And teams are doing that to try to keep people off balance and stuff. And, so we're going to see that again Saturday, and we're going to see it again next Wednesday. But, yeah, we've got to show people, if they're going to zone us, we got to show them that we can make baskets on the perimeter. And right now, more and more people are doing it because they scout us. They read the stats just like everybody else, and they're seeing that we're not shooting it that well. And it just is really confusing to me because in our scrimmages, we had 8 scrimmages in the preseason, and as a team, we shot over 40% from 3. And now we've gotten into the regular season, and we're not. So that's why I just keep believing that eventually we're going to, have a night where we get the ball going in the basket, and then we just get that feeling, and everybody kind of feeds off of that, and hopefully it's going to be contagious going around. But, until we can show people that we can attack it, we can make perimeter shots, they're going to continue to zone us.
Well, I did notice a little bit in the second half. There was a run with about 3 minutes left where you closed the gap down to a one-score game. But it felt like, especially early in the second half, when they did switch to the zone, it was a lot of just ball movement around the perimeter and not really penetrating that zone defense. And I think as you moved into the second half, I saw more passes inside to Isaac and more passes inside to Charles. Charles had a very solid couple minutes for you in the second half. And I think, obviously attacking inside that zone, forcing that zone to collapse down, opened up looks for CJ and for Janai and for Brian, and like you said, those guys are going to knock down those shots before too long. And I think that's the way, though, that it almost felt like in the final 5-6 minutes of that game, they started to kind of piece together carving up that Butler zone just a little bit. And I think if they can take that mindset into moving forward against the zone, I think they'll have success.
Well, whether it's zone or man, one thing that these young guys got to learn is they got to attack gaps and not around the three-point line. And when they're attacking a gap, they got to think to penetrate and to pass it to somebody. High school games, they were allowed. I mean, they were the best players on their team. They were able to drive it in there and rise up and shoot shots. Well, now you got a 6'9", or last night Richardson 7'1". Back there, you got 6'8" long athletic guys that are defending that stuff, and so when you drive that gap, you got to be prepared to kick it out to the next guy. Maybe then it takes another pass before you get the shot. And that's the thing that we're still trying to learn and get comfortable with that and not try to force things that aren't there with bad shots. And it takes a little time. We're definitely getting a lot of practice at it, and hopefully it's going to start making some shots.
Something that Coach Odom said after the game that really kind of sat with me is, of course, when you're in a stretch like this, it's important to maintain your confidence and not let your performance on the court start to impact you mentally. And he said that it's hard to do that when you're not winning games like you haven't been in the last 10, 12 days or so. But going on the road, it's no secret that the trip to Goodland's a very tough road trip, as we've talked about. But what with a group of guys that are not really like you said, a lot of these guys have been the best players on their team since they were 5-6 years old, and probably not used to losing 3 games in a row very often. So what's been the approach that you and Coach Odom and Coach Proctor have taken to make sure that even though these guys aren't having the complete success on the court that they'd like to have right now, that it's not impacting them, their mindset and their aggressiveness?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always very honest with them. I say a little bit after the game, but I always, want to try to make sure I temper that till I see the tape. And last night after the game, I went home and watched it. And you evaluate things. You bring them just the actual facts and talk about things that are going to work, things that aren't going to work. And this team has been good about buying in. I mean, today we practiced. The only thing we did was, we warmed up, we stretched, and then we spent an hour just working on game shots. And, they were in an all-out sweat by the time we got done. And that's what, you just got to keep working at it. And we try to stay as positive as possible. And I tell them, I said, I see this. I said, if we took a poll in here and asked, is CJ a good shooter? Is Janai a good shooter? Is Brian a good shooter? Is Chris a good shooter? You guys see it every day in practice, and everybody would say yes. Well, we got to start seeing it in the games. And, we work at it, and they're working at it, and I give them credit. I mean, Janai, as soon as the games are over, he's back down there in the gym ready to shoot again. He's probably doing that before you pack up your stuff.
Yep.
I mean, he knows that he's not shooting the ball well, and he's working at it. And Brian does the same thing. And so, that kind of work is going to pay off.
Absolutely, it is. And Coach, I'm glad you said that, because I think that's something that has really stood out to me as well. Is just like you said, Janai after the game, he was knocking them down. By the way, he was hitting 5-6 in a row.
I know, I see it all the time. It's got to come in the game.
Yeah, it does. And but I think that's something that really sits with me heading into this road trip against Northwest Kansas Tech, is that this group of guys, even with the ups and downs of this season, it seems like they balance. They don't let the highs get too high. They don't let the lows get too low. They've been pretty, I think, even-tempered for a group of young guys. And I think that something that I talked about with Coach Odom was, these guys know that they gotta go out there and prove it on the court. And I think that the overall theme that we've had tonight is that the mindset that they have is going to eventually lead to the results that the fans are wanting, that the team is wanting, that you're wanting. But it's much easier to look at what you see after the game's over, and maybe some of the fans have gone home, and what you see with these guys putting up shots and starting to play music and put shots up 15 minutes after the game's over, than obviously maybe the number you see in the box score.
Yeah, I mean, they do care, and they know they're not performing well. And as much as I talk about how good this league is, with all of our inexperience that we have, they don't know. I know there was doubt in their minds when I'm saying how good this league is night in, night out, how you got to prepare and how well coached this league is. And, they all think that they're going to be able to go out there and have success. But now we're finding out. I mean, they're finding out it is real. I mean, the way people come and attack us, and I continually remind them that the reason people are doing this is they see the name on the chest. They know who they're playing. They know the coaches know. The coaches have been in this league a long time, and they know our successes that we've had. And they want to make a name for their programs, and they want to beat Coffeyville. And, like last night, number 9 team in the country, Butler, after beating us, if you're the number 9 team and you beat a team that's right around 500, most teams aren't going to celebrate very much. I mean, those guys were whooping and hollering and yapping down in their locker room, and they were all excited about winning. I mean, every team that has beaten us has done that. And I tell our guys, that's what it's about. That's what those teams are trying to do. You got Coffeyville on your chest. They're going to come at you different. And, our guys are starting to figure that out.
And with some guys from Cloud and Cali come to mind that, that are returners from last year's team. I mean, it sits with them. I mean, this team, Cloud came to know us all last year and lost by 25 points, like you said. And they came to, came into town this year, and they made a point to get payback for that.
Well, Coach Kastrup from Cloud, we were talking before the game, and he says, I just made sure I mentioned to our guys how things turned out down here last year, and he had returning players, and he says, boy, that got their attention. Well, obviously they did. I heard Donnie's post-game interview over there at Cowley. I watched the game, and then heard his post-game interview, and he says, our returning guys, that was us last year getting beat like we just beat Coffeyville. Coffeyville came over here and handed us the big loss last year. And he said, that's all my sophomores talked about, was that is not going to happen again this year. And that's what our guys got to know. As much as you tell them, they're starting to experience it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Coach, as we wrap things up here for the first part of the show, of course, the trip to Goodland, one of the tougher ones in the league. And it's going to be a long weekend for you and the team. But this Northwest Tech team, I haven't been around the league very long, but it seems like their team identity is a lot of athletes, physical, scrappy team, good defensive team, and maybe they don't showcase some of the star power that some other teams have, but they're just a good, scrappy, physical team. So looking at them, what do you see from them, and what's going to lead to success this weekend?
Yeah, they got a couple returners back from last year. Their starting point guard, one of their forwards. Last year we had a lot at stake when we went out there last game of the year. If we won and Dodge City got beat, we were going to win the conference, and we were going to be the top seed in the region tournament, and we would have been in the national tournament as an at-large bid. It was all going to be wrapped up if we would have gone out there and won, and we beat them by 20 here, and we went out there and we got beat. And last game of the year. And so it's a tough place because, we're traveling so far. It's just it's in a high school gym. It's a regulation college floor, but it's in a high school gym. And, it's just a different environment out there. And what they do, they play a 1-3-1, which we don't see a 1-3-1 all year, except when we play them. So that's different. And they do play some man, and it's very aggressive. So, we're just going to have to go out there. We're going to have to guard, and then, it's going to come down to what we've been talking about for 30 minutes here. We got to make some shots. We got to take good shots. We got to make some shots.
And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that with Tech coming up on Saturday and then Seward County at Nellis Hall coming up next week, next Wednesday, you find a way to get a couple wins in a row. Going into the break at 3-3 feels a whole lot better.
There ain't no doubt. And that's what we talked about today. That's what we got to do. We got to try to right this ship right now and get a couple wins. Then we got one more non-conference game next Saturday against Seminole down there, our return game with them, because that was our bye game in conference. So that's why I scheduled it there. So, yeah, try to get a good feel before we go into the Christmas break and then come back and get after it again.
Great stuff from Coach Jay Herkelman as we get the Red Raven Coaches Show hitting the halfway point. And let's step away for 4 minutes. We'll have Tony Turner on the other side as we start talking Lady Ravens. Coach, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's step away for 4. We're right back after this on the Mighty 690 KGGF.
Watson in motion. They're going to throw a crossing pattern. Caught right, 30. Angling 25 up the sideline. 15 inside the 5. Touchdown! Kansas City!
The road trip continues this Sunday when the Chiefs travel to legendary Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. Pregame starts at 6 on your home for Kansas City Chiefs football.
The Mighty 690 KGGF. Chiefs football is brought to you on KGGF by Roman Chevrolet, Rack House Billiards, Sawyer's Fine Wines and Spirits, Millie's Fine Furnishings, Merle Norman, Brewski's, Great Plains Federal Credit Union, Gemini Funding, Skyway Honda, Sports Zone Liquor, T.H. Rogers Lumber Company, Levette Health, Anderson Plumbing LLC.
When it comes to a time of loss, most folks around here trust and rely on David W. Barnes Funeral Home. It could be because of their compassionate care. It could be because of their superior service. Or maybe because of their fair, honest prices. Or just maybe for all those reasons. More people trust the David W. Barnes Funeral Home during a time of loss. The David W. Barnes Funeral Home, 306 North Klein in Coffeyville, an independent, family-owned business.
Want a job that's never dull? Every day is different. You have flexibility and can set your daily schedule. Do you like to make a difference in helping people, their businesses, and our community? Or perhaps we have a position for you. Radio and digital media is exciting. Find out about joining our team. We have a family culture, and we want you to have a career with us. Being a radio sales executive requires a car, driver's license, a desire to learn, and to help others. It's a full-time salaried position with benefits and commission. Simply pick up an application from our website. The job is based out of Bartlesville or Coffeyville. Your choice. Equal opportunity employer.
Staying healthy is difficult. What nutritional supplements should you take? What foods are best for you? What health practitioners should you see? You've got health questions? I've got health answers. From back pain to a bad stomach, prostate issues to pimples, allergies to arthritis, ringing in the ear to ringworm, and all points in between. Tune in to the Dr. Bob Martin Show this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Mighty 690 KGGF.
Hi, I'm Pastor John Franson. Tune in at 7 a.m. on KGGF to hear the Lutheran Hour Sunday morning. Brought to you by Trinity Lutheran Church, Caney, Kansas, and St. Paul Lutheran Church, Coffeyville, Kansas. At 7:30 a.m., tune in to hear St. Paul's sermon from last Sunday. And we'd love to have you come and worship with us in person, 10:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings. God's peace be with you. Amen.
Kansas State Wildcat Basketball is brought to you on KGGF by Community State Bank, Corner Post Insurance, Altamont Builder Supply, Coffeyville Community College, Roman Chevrolet, and Farm Bureau Financial Services Agent Justin Stidham. Your home for Wildcat basketball in the 4 states is the Mighty 690 KGGF.
Is your dining room getting overrun with mounds of stuff? Old furniture piling up? And just wondering what to do if guests show up? Dispense with the family arguments and get an indoor storage unit from Indoor Storage Solutions on West Main in Independence, Kansas. Units starting as low as $45. Get extra space today. 620-205-6720. 620-205-6720. That's 620-205-6720.
Red Raven Coaches Show here on the Mighty 690. Big thanks to the David W. Barnes Funeral Home for having us. Big thanks to Gigi's Burger Bar as well for having us. I should say big thanks to David W. Barnes Funeral Home for sponsoring us. That's not where we're at. We're at Gigi's, and that's a poor start. But I'll tell you what's going to make it better is having Tony Turner with us to talk a little Lady Raven basketball. And Coach, not much you could say here in the next 15 seconds would be worse than what I said. So, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Just looking forward to this radio show.
Absolutely. And, Coach, I'll ask you the same thing I asked Coach Herc. And before we start breaking down your team, did you have a good Thanksgiving? How was the break from the show and getting to enjoy Thanksgiving?
Oh, Thanksgiving was great. Got to spend some time with the family, and we invited a couple players over that didn't have anywhere to go, and I think they had a great time. One of my coaches came over that lives away, but no, it was we had a great time.
And that's something I talked to Coach Herkelman about was that's something that my college did as well, and I think that's so important is that extra effort to show that your players and the athletes of CCC that you care about them off the court. Now it's not just you're not. Something that our athletic director at Wright State said that I always sat with me was people first, students second, athletes third. And I think that's always a good way of looking at it is, of course, talented basketball players, talented athletes, but at the end of the day, they're people. And if they can't make it home for something like Thanksgiving, I'm sure that, that's emotional time for them. So something as simple as having a little event together to get some of those players together, I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, we had several people in the community reach out to us and ask if we had people, if they had somewhere to go, and which we had a couple. Most of them all went home, but like I said, a few didn't, and they just decided they wanted to come hang out at Coach Turner's house. I said, don't y'all get enough of Coach Turner? But no, we appreciate it, and we were glad that they wanted to come over.
Absolutely. And Coach, been some stuff that's developed since we last spoke on the Red Raven Coaches Show, but get a big-time win over Cloud County and then go on the road. And that Cali game, I don't know if I've still gotten over that. That Cali game was incredible. Back and forth for 40 minutes. And then, of course, the Butler game last night, taking on the number 3 team in the nation. Things didn't quite go your way. But I think, you look at the large-scale picture, which I know head coaches don't always like to do. They like to look at the final score. But I think other than that second quarter, obviously Butler outscored you by 8 points other than the second quarter. But that first quarter back and forth, that third quarter, I believe, ended up tied in that third quarter. So your team, even though, you see the score and you see an 18-point loss, it doesn't feel like an 18-point loss. I think for a good 30, 32 minutes of that game, your team punched right back with Butler.
Oh, no question. I thought we were right there. And even in the fourth quarter, I think we were down 12. And I'm like, we still got a chance. And then we got to 8. And I'm like, a couple more possessions, and we were 8 with the ball, and I think we missed a wide-open 3, which is part of basketball, and you live with the tray, you die with the tray. And but I thought our girls battled. We battled probably for 36 minutes of that game, maybe 37 the last 3 minutes. I thought the air kind of deflated us. They deflated our bubble, I guess you could say. But other than that last 3 minutes of the game, I thought we did pretty good.
Well, and I think that I'm glad you said that because I think that's something that we've talked about before with this year's team that's impressive to me is they find different ways to hang in games and find different ways to win games. And at halftime, you had one made 3 in the first half. And like you said, last year and even at times this year, this is a team that has some of the best three-point shooters in the conference. And if you told some people around the league that Coffeyville had 1 3 at the half, they'd be like, oh, they're down 15, 20 points. But you were hanging right there with them. And I think that it shows the mental toughness of this team that if the threes aren't falling, they're willing to attack the paint, get to the free throw line. If you're struggling from the field in the first half, it doesn't reflect their defense. If you're going up against a really good player that's scoring like Freddie Wallace was at times last night, you've got players like Karras, like Bailey, like Kylie that take that personally, and they almost match players like that shot for shot. It feels like your team just I know one of the things I love that you mentioned in the pregame show was the sign on your door that says beware of dogs, because I think that's exactly right. Your team's just got a bunch of gutsy, scrappy players that they'll do whatever it takes to get a W at the end of the day.
Oh, no question. And, in our shoot-around yesterday before the game, I said, regardless of the score, win by 20, lose by 20, we don't give up. We battle to the final straw, final horn. And again, it's just you build on these times. Yeah, you want to win. It's going to be hard to beat a team like that 3 times. So, maybe they stole one from us and we'll steal the next two. And, I'm sure they're definitely a team that'll contend for the conference race. They'll be a team that's going to battle for the conference, for the regional race. And I just think it was good for us to see that kind of basketball, their pressure defense, what they do. And we just kept battling, and we'll be okay.
And I don't mean to tie this last year to this year, because I know it's two very different teams and two very different seasons. But to the Red Raven fans listening at home, I do want to remind those folks that your team dropped a game or two games to Dodge City before the postseason. So, something that at the end of the day, of course, it's a good learning experience. It's a good test to go up against maybe who a lot of people consider to be the betting favorite in this league, and figure out where you stand with them in November. But at the end of the day, it's November. And by the time you play again in January, and if you're lucky enough to play again in March, it's not going to be, it's going to be completely different teams.
Oh, no question. I told my assistants as we were watching film, I said, we'll be okay. The mistakes we made are correctable. Butler played good. I'm not taking anything away from them. They played hard. They're fast. They guard you. We hadn't faced a team that guards you like that. And, today in practice was working on some of those pressure release, how to get people off of you, how to get open a little better, and just the preparation for practice that we, of course, early in the year we did work on some of that stuff, but they didn't quite understand it. Why? Well, today's practice was a little more intense, and they understood the why of why we do these things.
Yeah.
Well, when you play, people are bigger, stronger, faster than you, how to counter it. And so it was a learning experience for us. We'll be okay. We'll bounce back.
I think, I hope that's something that your players took away, because I think there's some teams in this league and around the country that they go up against that Butler team, and they learn over the course of 40 minutes that they just might not be able to hang with a team with that kind of talent. They might not be able, to keep up. They're a step behind or two steps behind. And I think something that your team can learn, even though it was an 18-point loss, and obviously they didn't want to lose a game at home, they didn't want to lose their first conference game, but they can look back at the film, they can look back at how that game went, and they can say that at the end of the day, like you said, those mistakes are correctable. But when all's said and done, that Butler team will admit, Coach Helmer will admit, Freddie Wallace will admit, anyone on that roster will admit that Coffeyville and Butler, from a talent perspective, they hang right there with each other.
Oh, no question. I mean, Coach Helmer and I have battled many, many years since I've been in the league, and I think our record may be tied now. I know I had a one-game lead over him out of all the years we've played against each other, and I've won at Butler several times, and I guess my teams have won at Butler several times, so he knows we're coming. We'll know we'll bounce back, and like I said, it was a good learning experience for me as a coach to learn what our character was all about and how well we're going to compete, how tough we were. I'm still sticking to beware the dogs, and we're coming, man. It happens to the best of them, and there's not too many undefeated champions out there, so we'll be okay.
Nobody gets through the Jayhawk without some bruises.
Oh, whoever wins this conference is going to probably have 3 or 4 losses. Yeah. No question.
No doubt about it. And, Coach, two things that I really took away from that game that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. First of all, I'm going to be careful with how I phrase this, because I do think that Ray Richardson gave you some really good minutes in that first half. But Tatana picked up 2 early fouls. I believe she only played 4 minutes in that first half. How much did that change the kind of the flow of the game of not having your point guard for a good portion of that first half?
And you're right. Ray did a great job. Ray Richardson did a great job, and T picked up a couple. The first one we thought was pretty legit. The second one was kind of questionable, but I think our team has to learn to trust Ray, that she's going to be okay. And I think even last year we played Butler at Butler, and T got hurt her ankle, and so she was out, and our team kind of had a little mental meltdown, and we just got to learn. And then, I didn't talk to him about that today, but I will tomorrow. Just say, I need you to trust Ray. Ray will be fine. Ray is a third-year kid. She redshirted her freshman year. I got all the confidence in the world in her. I need you guys to have confidence in her, too, and just keep playing. It's not going to be a drop-off. And I thought she did a great job last night.
She did. I think I agree with you. I mean, she had a couple of just really good cuts at the end of shot clocks that got you some scores when you really needed some scores. And like you said, she looks comfortable out there running that offense. And I think that we had at guard. And she comes in this year as, Tatana's backup point guard, and she's in the minutes she's had, she's been very, very good. And I think we've already seen 10 games into the season from game 1 to game 10, you can tell she's so much more comfortable and so much more smooth out there running that offense.
No question about that. You know, when I got in this morning, Coach Sierra had her in the office, and they were watching film together, just talking about just some, she made a couple mistakes, and her body language kind of went down. Like, no, you got to have confidence. If you start doing this and having bad body language, your teammates are going to pick up on it. You got to go with that mentality. The next play, where's the next play at? I'm okay. We got it, y'all. Let's go. And she's getting there. And again, we're really, like I said, she has improved so much since when she got here to where she's at now. We just like when she works hard. She came in today, worked extremely hard. She's in our office every day, just trying to pick our brains and figure out what she needs to do to get better.
And that seems like a common theme across both of these teams is you have players that care. You have players that want to win, that they're quote unquote bad losers, and I don't mean that by being bad sports after a loss or something like that. I mean nobody likes to lose, and your players are definitely amplified, because I think every time we see these teams lose, they take it personally, and they want to get back. They can't wait to get back in the lab and try to fix it and get back out there. I'm sure internally this teams are. When do we get to go to El Dorado and play Butler again? When do we get another shot at them? And I think that's obviously a winning culture. That's a winning mentality, and that's going to benefit you more times than not.
Oh, no question. I even asked them today. I said, who all watched film? Who all watched the game? And every one of them raised their hand. Even the ones that didn't get to play or didn't play much, they were in that film session watching it, and we watched the film as a team. And this team is a little different than the ones in the past. I think those sophomores we had last year kind of set the tone with those freshmen from last year, and just the dedication, the commitment level that you got to do to be successful. Just watching film, knowing what to do, paying attention to little details, and I thought I want to give a credit to that crew we had, those sophomores we had last year. They kind of set the tone for this year's crew.
And, Coach, the other thing I noticed in that game, of course, Freddie Wallace is the league-wide star that everyone knows the name of, and she played great. But I think the unsung hero for that Butler team is Randy Harding. She is all-conference defender as a freshman. She saw a lot of time on Kylie. She saw some time on Karis in the second half. She saw some time on Bailey. It's very clear that Coach Helmer sees her as their best defender, and it's very similar to how Coach Herkelman uses Isaac Jackson, and the fact that 1 through 5, we're just going to put her on the other team's best players.
Oh, yeah, they had a couple of those. Number 22, I can't think of her name right. She was everywhere. I mean, they just swarm, man, and they were a good learning tool for us to see just how you fly around, how you guard. We always say guard 2 or 3 people. The good ones guard 2 or 3 people every possession, and I thought, just watching film, how they guarded everybody was just in that mindset of guarding 2 people. I mean, I was like, why come the lob's not there? Because somebody was there. I mean, why come we can't get the skip pass? Well, they were already there. I mean, they flew around, and I know Randy Harding's a very hard-nosed player, and she did an excellent job on our shooters, and he helped on the post. She had that dog mentality.
Right, and it just felt like you said, the swarming defense that they had it's not like there were missed opportunities. There were, maybe I can count on one hand the amount of shots that they might have had that they didn't take over the course of that game. Every time you had a shooter catch the ball, there was a player right in the face.
Oh,
you don't
rushed.
get that shot off, yeah.
They felt rushed all night, even every night. Even when they thought they had a clean look, here comes somebody real quick. And we learned with the shot fakes today, in which we thought they already knew that stuff, but, a lot of mistakes college coaches make. They think they already know this stuff, and we just had to break it down a little more. Hey, get them in the air like they get us in the air, and go by them and hit that mid-range shot. And but no, it was a great learning experience for us.
Red Raven Coaches Show from Gigi's Burger Bar on 9th Street in downtown Coffeyville. Big thanks to the David W. Barnes Funeral Home for sponsoring the show as well. Let's take a quick 2-minute timeout. When we come back, we're talking about the game coming up with Northwest Tech, and we'll get some updates on the team as well. We're back in 2 minutes here on the Mighty 690 KGGF.
When it comes to a time of loss, most folks around here trust and rely on David W. Barnes Funeral Home. It could be because of their compassionate care. It could be because of their superior service. Or maybe because of their fair, honest prices. Or just maybe for all those reasons. More people trust the David W. Barnes Funeral Home during a time of loss. The David W. Barnes Funeral Home, 306 North Klein in Coffeyville, an independent, family-owned business.
Watson in motion. They're going to throw a crossing pattern. Caught right, 30. Angling 25 up the sideline. 15. Inside the 5. Touchdown! Kansas!
trip continues this Sunday when the Chiefs travel to legendary Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. Pregame starts at 6 on your home for Kansas City Chiefs football.
The mighty 690 KGGF. Football is brought to you on KGGF by Roman Chevrolet, Rack House Billiards, Sawyer's Fine Wines and Spirits, Millie's Fine Furnishings, Merle Norman, Brewski's, Great Plains Federal Credit Union, Gemini Funding, Skyway Honda, Sports Zone Liquor, T.H. Rogers Lumber Company, Levette Health, Anderson Plumbing LLC, Kansas State Wildcat Basketball is brought to you on KGGF by Community State Bank, Corner Post Insurance, Altamont Builder Supply, Coffeyville Community College, Roman Chevrolet, and Farm Bureau Financial Services Agent Justin Stidham. Your home for Wildcat Basketball in the 4 states is the mighty 690 KGGF.
Red Raven Coaches Show here on the Mighty 690. I'm Shane Eel, Tony Turner alongside with us as we put a bow on this one. Good to be back after the Thanksgiving holiday. Of course, the joke I made was we were never going to have a show last week because I want you and Coach Herc to enjoy this show. And if I made you come in on Thanksgiving, you'd have been like, oh, we got to hang out with this guy again. So, but no, we wrapping this one up. And something I told Coach Herc, and I'm sure you feel the same way. You get, of course, Northwest Tech coming up on Saturday, long weekend out there in Goodland, but a chance to go on the road to get back on track. And then, of course, you end the first half, if you will, with Seward before the winter break. And I think, the guys are in a little bit different situation, but same goes for you. You go on the road, get a win, come back home, defend Nellis Hall, and you sit at 5-1 going into the break in the conference. That looks pretty good.
No, that definitely looks good. And we had to talk about Northwest Tech tonight about just it's a long trip and it's not a fun trip. It's you're out in the hotel for 2 days and you got that long bus drive on that bus. And I said, just don't. I've seen many teams go out there and get beat just because they take that game for granted or they're still feeling sorry for themselves. And we got to go out there and just handle our business. There ain't nothing we can do about it. They're in our league. We got to go. I mean, we got to go and just be a little disciplined and handle our business.
Well, and that's I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I was curious about. With you have to spend a day to travel to get to Goodland, but do you think that is a good thing or maybe a bad thing for your team in the sense that do you think it's maybe a quick turnaround and they can focus on the next opponent and kind of put Butler in the rearview mirror? Or do you think, with this quick travel to get to Goodland for this game on Saturday that it's going to be kind of rushing them back onto the court with it before you can maybe correct everything?
No, I think it's a good thing. It's a quick turnaround. Hopefully we can go out here and handle our business and get that loss off of us and get back on the winning track and just continue to battle. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that's where we're at. And, like I said, today's practice was good, and I don't think our team is taken them for granted. We'll come out there and handle our business.
And, Coach, I was checking some scores at the break from last night, and I think it just reflects exactly what we've talked about every time we look at this league and the fact that every team is good, but that also means that every team is vulnerable on every given night. We saw, of course, Dodge City nearly go down against Pratt last night. We saw Garden go down. We've seen Barton get knocked off a couple times. It's just, it doesn't matter what you did last year, what the number was next to your name in the preseason rankings, what your record really is going into that night's game. It feels like all these teams are, it feels like almost every single night at this point, a 9th or 10th place knocking off a 3rd or 4th place. And I think it's only a matter of time before Butler and Hutch have the same fate. But I think it also is encouraging for your group and for you, I'm sure, as well, where, like you said, nobody gets through this conference without some battle scars. And I think, your group of ladies can look at that and be like, everybody has tough nights in the Jayhawk Conference, and it's not like, 1 or 2 losses is going to set you back steps from the top teams in this league.
Oh, no, not at all. We're still right in the mix, and, like you say, Butler and Hutch hadn't played each other. Butler and Dodge hadn't played them. We hadn't played them either, but I'm just saying, we still get a chance to go play Butler again. I mean, everybody's home and away. This is probably one of the toughest conferences in the league, just because night in, night out, every night, you can't take any team for granted. No. You got to come and battle every night.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think it showed through the conference games so far. You beat Pratt by 7, and that's a Pratt team that you played in the playoffs last year, so you know that's a good team. And then they go out and they beat Barton, and then you beat Cloud County, and then Cloud's had a couple of very impressive wins already this year. And then you go on the road to Cali. You beat Cali by 6 points, and it's only a matter of time before we see Cali knock off one of these top teams in the league. So it's just there is no. We get to play this team. Good, we get a night off. No, it's just even the teams that are projected to be at the bottom of the conference. It's an 8-9 hour drive to get out there. Yeah. So just the travel makes it a tough game.
Pratt loses to Dodge City by 2 points. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on. Like we'll be okay. Like my coach said, we've got to keep grinding. We've got to keep grinding. Take one game at a time and just get our team better. Just keep figuring out the things where our weak links are, where our I always say a kink in our armor, where that is, and we're working. I got 2 good coaches that are involved and working, and our team's doing their due diligence of watching film. So I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, and something I've kind of adopted over the course of some of the games here in the first half that I think I'm going to keep using moving forward when talking about your team and talking about Coach Herkelman's team is if you want to knock off these Red Ravens this year, I recommend you do it before the new year flips over because, the mentality I have watching your team and watching Coach Herkelman's team is there's going to be a game, whether it's a night or a week or a stretch of 3-4 games or it's a big win over a conference championship contender, that a switch flips. And with the talent on these 2 teams, when that switch flips, I don't know if you get a chance to get them again. So the phrase I've been using is if you're going to get them early.
No question. Once we figure out our chemistry, and, we have 15 players and 15 players that work extremely hard every day in practice. And once we figure out that chemistry, what's best for this team, I think, and hopefully sooner than later, you know what I mean? But by the time the end of this thing is over, we're going to be tough to beat.
Oh, and we still got, a month down the road, obviously, with the whole winter break coming up. But coming out of that winter break, I think not just your group, but 5-6 teams across the conference are going to learn a lot about themselves with that stretch of Barton, Dodge City, Garden City, Hutch. I mean, that's who a lot of people view as top 5-6 teams in this league, and they're just going to beat each other up for 2 weeks. So.
No question about that. We're going to beat each other up.
Yep.
And it's part of it.
Yep, no doubt about it. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we come out of that stretch and all 5-6 of those teams go 3-3. That's very possible. Yep. And but Coach, while we have a couple minutes here to put a bow on this one, you look at Northwest Kansas Tech again. Like I told Coach Herkelman, I haven't been around this league for very long, but kind of the identity and kind of the I guess the vibe I get from the Mavericks is great physicality, good size, pretty strong, solid defensive team. It's a team that plays well at home because it's a long drive to get out there, and it's a team that's just very, very scrappy. So what do you see from the Mavericks, and how does your group get back on track this weekend?
The Mavericks are very athletic. They're long and athletic. They run some different zones, different man. They got a couple players that are just big-time ballers. They're just ballers, and we just got to just go out there and just be disciplined, run our stuff, control the tempo, play physical with them, and be smarter than what they are. And if we can go do those things, I like our chances. And go out and battle. I mean, I'll keep referencing to this Butler game about how we gave this home game away and just some of the things that we didn't do great. I'll bring that up in times, I'm sure, during the game. And we'll get going. We'll be okay. I have the faith in this team that they'll put this one behind us and go start handling it. We'll think about that next game.
Well, and Coach, from the moments we started talking in July and August, you have not wavered once about your confidence in this team. From the first conversations we had before the rankings were out, and while there were still some shuffling of some rosters and stuff, I asked you, where do you see yourself falling this year? And you said, I think we're a top 2-3 team in this league. I think we're a championship contender. And you have not backed off that cliff one bit. And I think you're going to stay there until March. When we find out for once and for all if this team is a championship caliber team or not. But I think something that across all levels of basketball, from high school all the way up to the NBA, I think the true mark of a championship caliber team is resiliency. Everybody has off nights. Everybody has games that they want to forget about. And the really good teams forget about it a lot quicker than the not so good teams.
Oh, no question about that. You hit the nail on the head right there. You got to move on to the next play. And I hate to lose, but I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm learning how to move on to the next play. But I hate to lose, but it's okay. And I'm mature enough to understand that it happens. But and I'll grind. Just like this morning, I was kind of laying there on the computer and just looking at games, and my wife came in and goes, "Next play. Move on to the next play. Let's go." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Let's go. Let me get up, go to work, and don't be depressed. You're good." And so now I'm out of it. Let's go.
And the fast pace of this conference. I mean, you lose a game on a Wednesday, and it's like you got 2 days. So
yep.
It's that helps a little bit. But big thanks to Nick Bryan back in the studio for flying the plane here with us tonight. Big thanks to Andrew. I'm glad Andrew made it out. He hasn't been here for the last couple shows. He might be the one person in Coffeyville that has a schedule busier than mine. But we do appreciate him being out here. And, of course, Coach Turner, Coach Herkelman. We'll have one more coach's show before the break next week where we're hopefully talking about some wins over the Mavericks in Seward County. But, Coach, always appreciate the time. Great talking with you. Best of luck this weekend.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Andrew, for all y'all do. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Big thanks to everybody for listening. We'll be back. Big thanks to the David W. Barnes Funeral Home and Gigi's Burger Bar as well. We'll be back at it next Thursday night at 6. And you're going back to the mighty 690 KGGF.
You've been listening to the Red Ravens Coaches Show on the mighty 690 KGGF with Shay Neal and Raven coaches Jay Herkelman and Tony Turner. Brought to you by the David W. Barnes Funeral Home. The Red Ravens Coaches Show is an exclusive production of KGGF Radio Sports.
Coffeyville Tire and Auto.